It wouldn't be a Football Reports podcast if we didn't talk about Man United and Ruben Amorim. During the international break, Mark Ratcliffe has said that he thinks that Ruben Amorim should get 3 years.
Yeah.
Were you surprised by that? Do you think he's got a point, or is he talking nonsense?
I'm not surprised by it because Sir Jim Ratcliffe has said a few kind of off-the-cuff things in the last 12, 18 months since he's been at Man United, but I actually checked out because I remember something very similar about Erik ten Hag that he came out with, and it was 3 weeks before he fired Erik ten Hag. He said he's a very good coach. So the words about Amorim are obviously welcomed by Amorim, but we all know what his record has been. It's statistically by far the worst Man United manager of the Premier League era. They haven't beaten anyone other than a promoted team this season or a 10-man team in Chelsea. So there's not a lot to say he's turned the corner. They haven't won away since Leicester last season, relegated Leicester. So
March.
So obviously Liverpool away at the weekend, that's probably the ultimate test for Man United. They've already had one of the ultimate tests with Man City where they lost 3-0. So I don't know. I mean, you cover United every day, Rob, but it seems a bit presumptuous to me for Ratcliffe to say that. I don't think he's ever going to get 3 years, but what do you think?
No, I think part of it is that you've seen sometimes with what Jim Ratcliffe has said that he's got this kind of way about him that if someone says someone says the sky's blue, he's going to say, oh, well, actually no, it's purple, because he just enjoys having that kind of influence and that ability just to say the exact opposite. I'm not suggesting that he is sat there thinking he's definitely going to give him 3 years. I do think it's maybe him showing that he's still supportive of Amorim. I mean, and we've discussed on this podcast before that really Ratcliffe needs this appointment to work out because it was his first big appointment, and if he was to get this wrong after what happened with Dan Ashworth, that there would be serious questions asked about Ratcliffe and his team. So he's obviously desperate for Amorim to work out. And my personal opinion is I think that you should give Amorim more time. Obviously that can't go on indefinitely because you can't go on without winning back-to-back Premier League games.
That's huge, James, because he did reference to Jim Ratcliffe, Mikel Arteta, who said it's comparable to Arteta. And I think there are some similarities, but obviously there are differences. Man United is a much bigger club in the sense of the demand and expectancy on it than Arsenal. And also when Arteta had come in, Arsenal had really been in kind of malaise for 10 years. Arsene Wenger's time had drifted. Unai Emery came in. There wasn't the same sort of expectancy. They were out of the Champions League. Is it a fair comparison, or did Arteta have it a little bit easier than Amorim?
Well, he did win the FA Cup.
Yeah,
in his first season, and
it's COVID Cup though, we don't count.
And well, but it was really important in validating a young manager in his first job, to say this is why we back this guy to make the difficult decisions, and there isn't enough. This is why Jim Ratcliffe has got to come out. Which, by the way, isn't this just man who gave manager contracts, says exactly. Manager serve out contracts? I mean, that's it. It's not like he's going, he's going to be here for 10 years.
But Manu gave a contract to a manager and sacked him 3 months later.
Yeah, no, but to me, it's not quite the ringing endorsement that everybody sort of seems to suggest it is. It's like, well, we gave him this 3-year deal and we'd like him to see out this 3-year deal. Well, yeah, of course you would, because you don't want to pay him off. Yeah. You don't want to admit you've got it wrong. But, he's not winning enough matches to earn the authority to say it's my way or the highway. What Arteta did was he was way more pragmatic. He won that FA Cup, which is absolutely vital. The way they won it in the semi-final and the final, they had, I think, something like 5 shots or 6 shots on target in the 2 games, and they scored twice in each, and they won Chelsea and then City. It was very much a means to an end, and that trophy was something he could point to on the mantelpiece when he was ripping up the contract of a player and say to the board, "This is why I'm doing this." Because you're going to get more of these. Now, he hasn't got any since.
No, but Ten Hag could say that when he won 2 trophies, and his direction was going nowhere.
But was there a structure to United? Was there a cohesion and a clear plan about the way they were going to play?
Absolutely not.
Team? Well, there was here. And so because he had that, and he had that FA Cup win, that gave him the authority. And it was still brave of the owners to back him, because you mentioned COVID. The fans weren't particularly happy with the style of football. And I think had there been full stadiums in the sort of early part of that second season, he would have been right up against it. And he's never admitted it publicly, but I think he would have been fighting to save his job. Whereas, of course, Amorim has not got the trophy. He's got 75,000 fans who are not entirely happy, although United fans generally are pretty loyal, particularly at home, towards their managers. And he's not getting the results.
I just wonder if it's
a point a game for a year.
Yeah, if we're sat in the next international break ends in November, that's 4 games away. Do you think he'll still be in charge?
Yes, because I genuinely don't think that they are even contemplating right now sacking him. Obviously, that it can't carry on. You're right. You can't carry on not winning back-to-back Premier League games and averaging a point every game. You can't carry on. I mean, and again, if Ruben was sat here, he would tell you the same. Like, he's going to live and die by results, and they've not been there. I would suggest that there are reasons why his record is as bad as it is. I thought last season was an absolute fire, to be honest, and he got shoved into a situation that was absolutely dreadful.
Yeah, but that's rubbish, that, because how many managers, when they say, I want to wait until the end of the season, they don't. Klopp came in mid-season, Arteta came in mid-season. You take the job and it's there. You can't have a rosy garden whereby, I want to come in the summer and I want to play my certain system. Yeah, no problem. We'll wait 7 months for you. You've got to take the job when it comes along. I mean, you can't have this situation where it's all in your favour.
If that had been April,
yeah, fair enough.
You could make the argument.
But I just think, though, I mean, there's a game that sticks out that someone at United has kind of mentioned to me a couple of times. Brentford away at the end of last year in April. United go to Brentford and they're about 4-1 down, I think, in an hour. They'll end up losing 4-3. That team that day had Obi up front starting, Harry Almas and Tyler Fredrickson. Tyler Fredrickson is nowhere near at the level right now to play for Man United. Obi's been sent back to the academy, so he's not even figuring in match day squads, and Harry Almas is at Sheffield Wednesday. Now, Ruben Amorim did that because he had to beat Bilbao in the week to progress in the Europa League. Now, he would have every right ahead of that Brentford game last year to say, well, actually, if I'm looking after myself, I'm going to pick my best team now in the hope that I get a Premier League win against a team who didn't really have much to play for. And if we lose against Bilbao and we get knocked out, well, that's sad, but actually I'm going to look after my own record. And he didn't. He put what he felt was best for the club first. Now, I'm not suggesting that he can survive, carrying on 6 months with those kind of excuses, but there is a reason why, when that Premier League record gets chucked at him, there is a reason why it's that bad.
Yeah.
Now, again, that can't go on forever, and if it's still terrible in January, then obviously there'll be questions to answer. I genuinely would just say to him, we're not going to look at the manager until the summer. Give him the season. Just give him January, give him the season, and then see where you're at. I mean, I know you're completely opposite and say, well, why would you want to write off a season? And I get that argument, but you cannot keep chopping and changing managers and not giving them the right conditions to succeed and then go, you failed. For a manager to turn around and go, well, you didn't help.
There's also not a leading candidate out there either. I think that's another element of this. Is if there was someone sat there, if we're talking about, I don't know, the name that's coming to my head was Pochettino, just because he's been linked so many times before.
They missed the boat, haven't they, with a load of them? Thomas Frank, Thomas Tuchel, Pochettino.
Yeah. Look, I mean, if somebody comes in, even if it's Amorim, just says, look, this isn't working, the system, the players aren't buying it, let's just go 4-2-3-1, then you might have, seriously, they've got players who can play that system. Certainly overloaded up front with players who can play that. I don't think any of the defenders are comfortable in the back three apart from Maguire because it protects him. It's just a completely pointless
Amorim's argument to that was if he walks into the dressing room and goes, well, we're not playing 3-4-3 anymore, we're playing 4-4-3-3, the players are going to go,
they're doing that already. They do it every time they train a session. They're doing, here we go again, 3-4-3. A year in, they haven't learned how to play the system. So it's like, at some point, change it. I mean, look, the goalkeeper might make a difference, but you can see the players that they're not comfortable playing there. They're not good enough in that system. So maybe Amorim should think, look, these guys aren't. It'd be much better for Amorim to make him look a much better coach to say, like, listen, guys, it's not working. Let's go forward at the back and we'll work on it in a different way.
I think it makes him look weak now if he changes with the players and with everyone else around the club.
That Europa League final, he must look back on that and just think, what a moment that could have been. If they'd won that,
everything.
They win that game, and we're not having this conversation.
Yeah, they win that game. Oh, we can't play in the Champions League because it's too hard for us. That's what he's saying. He finds an excuse in everything. You can't say we don't want to qualify for the Champions League because we can't handle the games.
But you can't. I mean, if they'd won that Europa League final and they still had exactly the same Premier League record that they had now, sat here today. Do you not think I don't think anybody would be talking about Ruben Amorim in his future at Man United, would they?
Well, he's also missing midweek. I mean, at the very basic level, he's missing midweek.
Well, he had one this season. That was Grimsby.
One of his.
We lost.
Yeah, but one of his Champions League games, if he'd won that final, he may have played, I don't know, a low-level Champions League side at Old Trafford where you could have gone and won 2-0, and all of a sudden the pressure wasn't building ahead of Sunderland at home. At the moment, he's completely exposed to Premier League results.
That's a really good point, actually, because I remember, and we've talked about this on this podcast before, that he's got a clear week, he can train with the group. Yeah. That's really going to help with the system. Do you think the flip side of that is that the players are sensing the pressure because it's building over 7 days?
Massively. I genuinely don't think that there's that. Again, Ruben would probably tell you something different, but he thinks it's a good thing. If they were in the Europa League this season, you play, with all due respect to FC20, you play FC20 on a Thursday night. You've been beaten at the weekend. You beat FC20 3-1 or 2-0 at Old Trafford, and then all of a sudden it's not a Premier League win, but the pressure eases slightly, and you're feeling better going into the weekend. At the moment, the week after that Brentford game where they lost 3-1, was just horrific for him. Like, there's just no hiding place. It's all over newspapers and Sky Sports News, and we're talking about podcasts. Sorry, Ruben. But he's just completely exposed to it all, and there's no escaping it. There's no respite.
This thing about, we've got a week on the training pitch now, it's like just say to the guys, well, just go out and just keep digging that hole even deeper, because, it's not working. An extra week of training this system when they're not taking it in after so long, do something different. I mean, like people say about if you're a coach facing Man United, you spend all week thinking, how are they going to play? We know they're going to play 3-4-3. So it's like he's just showing his hand all the time. So listen, I like the guy's got charisma, but in terms of coaching record, he's just not working at Man United.
Well, obviously, we could spend all day talking about Ruben Amorim and Man United. I'm sure we will do on different episodes of this podcast, but that's all we've got time for this week. Join us again next week for more Football Reporters.